The historical classification of homosexuality within prominent diagnostic manuals, such as the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders and the International Classification of Diseases, reflects a long and troubled past. For much of the 20th century, homosexuality was pathologized and considered a mental illness. Its inclusion in these influential manuals reinforced societal stigma and discrimination against LGBTQIA+ individuals. The DSM, first published in 1952, listed homosexuality as a sociopathic personality disturbance. This classification had profound consequences, shaping public perception and influencing clinical practices. It was not until 1973 that the American Psychiatric Association removed homosexuality as a standalone diagnosis from the DSM. However, it was replaced with sexual orientation disturbance, which continued to perpetuate the notion that same-sex attraction was inherently problematic. The ICD, maintained by the World Health Organization, followed a similar trajectory. Homosexuality was initially categorized as a mental disorder. In 1992, the WHO removed homosexuality from the ICD, acknowledging that it was not a pathology. These landmark decisions to declassify homosexuality as a mental disorder were the culmination of years of advocacy by LGBTIA+ activists, researchers, and mental health professionals. They marked a significant shift in understanding sexual orientation, recognizing the diversity of human experience and challenging long-held prejudices. Conversion therapy, also known as reparative therapy or sexual orientation and gender identity change efforts, encompasses a range of harmful practices aimed at changing an individual's sexual orientation or gender identity. These practices are rooted in the discredited belief that being LGBTQIA+ is a mental illness or a choice that can be reversed. Conversion therapy has a long and troubling history, often employing unethical and abusive methods. These methods have included aversion therapy, such as inducing nausea or administering electric shocks while showing the individual homoerotic images, as well as talk therapy aimed at instilling shame and guilt about same-sex attraction or gender nonconformity. The prevalence of conversion therapy is alarming, with an estimated 4% to 34% of sexual and gender minority individuals in the United States having experienced these harmful practices. Conversion therapy is particularly prevalent among transgender individuals, racial and ethnic minorities, those from less accepting communities, and individuals with lower levels of education. The mental health impacts of conversion therapy are severe and long-lasting. Studies have consistently shown that exposure to conversion therapy is associated with increased risks of depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, substance abuse, and suicidality. Neuroscience research exploring the biological underpinnings of sexual orientation and gender identity has undergone a dramatic transformation over the past century. This evolution reflects broader shifts in scientific understanding, technological advancements, and societal attitudes towards LGBTQIA+ individuals. Early research in the field was often driven by a desire to identify pathological differences in the brains of LGBTQIA+ individuals. These studies were often flawed by methodological limitations, small sample sizes, and heteronormative biases. However, as the understanding of sexual orientation and gender identity evolved, so too did the research questions being asked. More recent research has shifted away from a focus on pathology and towards an exploration of the natural variations in brain structure and function that may be associated with sexual orientation and gender identity. This shift has been driven by advancements in neuroimaging techniques such as magnetic resonance imaging, which allow researchers to study the living brain in unprecedented detail. While much remains to be discovered, neuroscience research has the potential to provide valuable insights into the biological underpinnings of sexual orientation and gender identity. This knowledge can help to further dismantle harmful stereotypes, promote acceptance, and inform policies that support the well-being of LGBTQIA+ individuals. In the early 20th century, as the field of neuroscience was still in its infancy, researchers began to explore the brain for potential clues to homosexuality. These early investigations were often driven by the prevailing view of homosexuality as a mental illness or a disorder in need of a biological explanation. One prominent line of research focused on the hypothalamus, a small region of the brain involved in regulating a wide range of bodily functions, including sexual behavior. In 1991, Simon Levay, a neuroscientist at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies, published a controversial study that reported a size difference in a specific hypothalamic nucleus between homosexual and heterosexual men. Levay's study, while intriguing, had several limitations. The sample size was small, and the study was conducted on post-mortem brain tissue, making it difficult to draw definitive conclusions about the relationship between hypothalamic structure and sexual orientation in living individuals. Despite its limitations, Levay's research sparked considerable interest and debate, prompting further investigations into the potential role of the hypothalamus in sexual orientation. However, subsequent research has yielded mixed results, and the precise relationship between hypothalamic structure and sexual orientation remains an area of ongoing scientific inquiry. Section 5. Hormonal hypotheses in the search for biological markers. Another prominent line of research in the quest to understand the biological basis of sexual orientation has focused on the role of hormones. Hormones such as testosterone and estrogen play a crucial role in sexual development and behavior. This has led some researchers to hypothesize that variations in hormone levels or exposure to hormones during prenatal development might contribute to sexual orientation. One hypothesis, known as the maternal immune hypothesis, proposes that a mother's immune system may play a role in the sexual orientation of her offspring. This hypothesis suggests that with each male pregnancy, a mother's body may develop an immune response to male-specific proteins. This immune response, in turn, could influence the development of the fetus's brain, potentially contributing to a higher likelihood of homosexuality in later-born sons. While the maternal immune hypothesis has generated considerable interest, it remains controversial and requires further research. Studies investigating the relationship between prenatal hormone exposure and sexual orientation have yielded inconsistent results, and more research is needed to fully elucidate the complex interplay between hormones, brain development, and sexual orientation. Section 6. The emergence of brain imaging studies. The advent of sophisticated neuroimaging techniques such as functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, has revolutionized the field of neuroscience, providing researchers with unprecedented tools to study the living brain in action. fMRI allows researchers to measure brain activity by detecting changes in blood flow. This has opened up new avenues for investigating the neural correlates of sexual orientation and gender identity. Early fMRI studies exploring sexual orientation focused on identifying differences in brain activation patterns between homosexual and heterosexual individuals in response to visual stimuli, such as erotic images or videos. These studies reported some differences in brain activation patterns, particularly in regions of the brain involved in processing emotional and social information. However, interpreting these findings is complex. It is important to note that brain differences do not necessarily imply innate or immutable differences in sexual orientation. The brain is highly plastic, meaning that it is constantly changing and adapting in response to experiences. Therefore, observed differences in brain activation patterns could reflect innate biological factors, environmental influences, or a complex interplay of both. Section 7. Minority stress, a social and psychological framework. While neuroscience research has provided valuable insights into the biological underpinnings of sexual orientation and gender identity, it is crucial to recognize that these experiences are also profoundly shaped by social and environmental factors. One framework that has gained significant traction in understanding the experiences of LGBTQIA+ individuals is the concept of minority stress. Minority stress refers to the unique stresses experienced by individuals who belong to stigmatized minority groups, such as LGBTQIA+ individuals. These stresses can include discrimination, prejudice, rejection, and violence, as well as internalized homophobia and transphobia. Minority stress can have profound impacts on mental and physical health, contributing to higher rates of depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and other health disparities. Understanding the role of minority stress is crucial for developing effective interventions and support systems for LGBTQIA+ individuals. Addressing societal stigma, promoting acceptance, and creating inclusive environments are essential for mitigating the negative impacts of minority stress and fostering the well-being of LGBTQIA+ people. Section 8. Intersectionality, recognizing the complexities of identity. Intersectionality is a framework for understanding how aspects of a person's social and political identities combine to create different modes of discrimination and privilege. For example, a black transgender woman may face discrimination that is different from both black men and white transgender women. This framework is crucial in LGBTQIA+ research because it highlights the diversity of experiences within this community. Factors such as race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, religion, and disability intersect with sexual orientation and gender identity to shape individual experiences and outcomes. Future research must consider these intersecting identities to gain a more nuanced understanding of the challenges and resiliencies within LGBTQIA+ populations. This approach will help develop more targeted interventions and support services that address the specific needs of diverse LGBTQIA+ communities. Section 9. Charting new territories, future directions in LGBTQIA+ research. As the field of LGBTQIA+ research continues to evolve, several promising directions are emerging. One important area of focus is moving beyond binary conceptualizations of sexual orientation and gender identity. Research should explore the full spectrum of sexual and gender diversity, including individuals who identify as bisexual, pansexual, asexual, non-binary, gender fluid, and more. Another crucial area for future research is investigating the impact of social and cultural contexts on the experiences of LGBTQIA+ individuals. This includes examining the role of family acceptance, religious beliefs, cultural norms, and legal protections in shaping the mental health and well-being of LGBTQIA+ people. Finally, there is a pressing need for more longitudinal research that follows LGBTQIA+ individuals over time. This type of research can provide valuable insights into the developmental trajectories of sexual orientation and gender identity, as well as the long-term impacts of minority stress, discrimination, and social support on mental and physical health. By embracing a more inclusive and nuanced approach, future research can contribute to a deeper understanding of the complexities of LGBTQIA+ lives, promote acceptance, and inform policies and practices that create a more just and equitable world for all.